Chosen ones, you are becoming very dangerous. They find your fearlessness and independence intimidating. They knew you before, the version they mocked, underestimated, dismissed, the one who used to explain yourself, overextend, shrink. But something has changed. Now you stand in silence, yet your presence carries more weight than their loudest voices. They scramble to pretend they're unaffected, but it's too late. Their nervous glances betray them. They adjust their clothes, clear their throats, look away too quickly, then back again. It's not about arrogance, it's not about ego, it's about energy. The kind that can't be faked, borrowed, or stolen. The kind that forces people to pay attention whether they want to or not. Your presence is not loud, it is commanding. And the worst part for them, you don't even try. They used to have power over you, not through strength, not through wisdom, but through noise. They filled your life with chaos, gaslighting, manipulation, passive-aggressive jabs wrapped in false concern. Every interaction was a carefully crafted game designed to keep you on edge, second-guessing yourself, trapped in a cycle of proving, defending, explaining. They needed you reactive. They needed you engaged, because as long as they could pull you into the storm, they controlled the narrative. But something has changed. You don't play their game anymore. They poke, they prod, they try to stir a reaction, waiting for the moment you snap back, justify yourself, let them pull you into an argument where they can twist your words and reframe your truth. You give them nothing. No response, no frustration, not even a flicker of acknowledgement. And that silence? It terrifies them. They expected anger. They would have preferred rage, because anger still means you care, still means you're connected. It gives them something to manipulate, something to twist. But silence? Silence is a void they cannot control. They talk louder, hoping to provoke you. They gossip, hoping their words will reach you. They craft entire stories in their heads, convincing themselves that your quiet means you're secretly plotting, secretly suffering, secretly wishing you could go back. You aren't. Your silence is not emptiness. It is the presence of something greater. You are at peace, and nothing unsettles them more. They spent so much time making you doubt yourself, making you second-guess your every decision, that they never prepared for the day you would simply walk away. Not with a dramatic exit, not with one final argument, just gone. No calls, no explanations, no need to correct their lies or clear your name. And the absence of your energy is louder than anything they could ever say. They check their phones, expecting a message that will never come. They bring up your name in conversations, hoping someone will tell them you miss them. They linger in places they think you might return to, hoping to catch a glimpse of you slipping back into the old patterns. You never do. You've mastered something they never will, the ability to detach, not out of spite, not out of revenge, but because you have nothing left to prove. They whisper, they rant, they scream into the void. But without you feeding their delusions, the only thing left for them to face is themselves. That is their greatest fear. You see the way they hesitate, the way they stall, overthink, wait for approval before they make a single move. They are paralyzed by their own uncertainty, trapped in a loop of fear disguised as preparation. They tell themselves they're being cautious. They tell themselves they're weighing their options. But the truth? They're afraid to fail. And then there's you. Moving, choosing, deciding, without hesitation, without waiting for validation, without caring who disapproves. Your certainty confuses them. They whisper among themselves, "How did they know? How did you know to walk away before the disaster hit? How did you know which opportunity was real and which one was a trap? How did you know who to trust, who to avoid, when to strike, when to wait?" They assume you must have inside knowledge, secret information, some unseen advantage. You do, but it doesn't come from them. They thought they could control your steps by keeping you in the dark. They thought you needed their advice, their opinions, their approval. They underestimated the depth of your inner guidance. You don't move based on external noise, you move from alignment. While they scramble, second-guessing every decision, you walk forward without looking back. They see it as arrogance, they call it luck, but deep down, they know the truth. You are listening to something they cannot hear. They try to sabotage you, hoping to throw you off course. They spread rumors, hoping to shake your confidence. They throw obstacles in your path, praying you'll trip and fall. But nothing works, because your power does not come from their approval. It does not come from their expectations. It does not come from their systems, their rules, their opinions. It comes from within. So while they hesitate, waiting for someone else to decide their fate, you carve your own path. They talk, you act, they wait, you build, they wonder. You know. This is why they fear you. They thought they could replace you. They believed you would always be there, waiting, hoping, proving yourself worthy of their acceptance. They mocked you, dismissed you, cast you aside like you were nothing. But nothing has a way of becoming everything, and now they watch. From a distance, from behind screens, from the corners of rooms where they once held the power to humiliate you. They see what you've become. They see the confidence that no longer wavers, the strength that no longer seeks permission. They see the light in your eyes that no longer dims to make them comfortable, and they need it. Not because they care, not because they've changed, but because they see what they lost. They never valued you when they had you. They never believed you would evolve past them. You were supposed to stay small, stay reachable, stay in a place where they could dictate your worth. But you didn't. You grew. Their pride won't let them admit it, but they need you. They try to find ways back in, but not with apologies, never with remorse. Instead, they test the waters, casual check-ins, shallow compliments, fake support disguised as interest. They hope you'll be so flattered by their sudden acknowledgement that you'll open the door wide, letting them in as if nothing happened. But you remember. You remember how they ignored you when you needed them most, how they laughed at your struggles, how they whispered about you when they thought you wouldn't hear. You remember the times they could have stood by you but chose to turn away. And that memory, it keeps you from making the mistake of letting them back in. Because something has changed, hasn't it? Not just them. You. You no longer seek their validation. Their approval is worthless to you now. That drives them insane. They thought they had the power to dictate who mattered. They thought they were the gatekeepers of your worth. But now, the tables have turned. Now, they are the ones watching you. They crave your acknowledgement. They need your energy. They want to feel like they still have a place in your world. But they don't, because you don't chase. You don't beg. You don't open doors for those who slammed them in your face. And the irony? The same people who once belittled you are now hoping, desperately, that you will see them. But you won't, because you have become your own source. And once you realize you never needed them, you see how much they always needed you. You woke up, you saw the game for what it was. And instead of playing, you walked away. You removed the strings they once pulled so effortlessly. Now, they watch you, independent, untouchable, unmoved by their usual tricks, and they hate it. Because control is all they ever had over you. Not love, not respect, not real power, just control. And when you took that away, they had nothing left. They tried to make you feel guilty. You didn't react. They tried to bait you into an argument. You stayed silent. They tried to paint you as the villain. You let them talk. Every attempt to pull you back in only made them more frustrated, more desperate, because they realized the one thing they never wanted to admit. They need you more than you ever needed them. They never thought you would make it without them. They never believed you would outgrow them, outshine them, outlive their influence. Yet here you are, thriving, strong, unshaken, and that terrifies them, not because you've harmed them, not because you've sought revenge, but because you have become something they cannot control. And people who rely on control, they fear what they cannot contain. So they whisper, they throw shade, they create new stories, hoping to bring you back down to a place where they can manage you. But none of it works, because when you remove the strings, you remove their only access to you. They can no longer threaten you with their absence. They can no longer manipulate you with their disapproval. They can no longer make you feel unworthy because you know your worth now. That is the greatest threat of all. They lost their hold over you, and in doing so, they lost everything. And now, let us take a brief moment to honor the chosen among us. Here's to the ones who see the world differently. The silent guardians. The watchful souls. Always awake, always vigilant. They don't fit the mold, and they wouldn't have it any other way. While others walk familiar paths, they forge their own, fighting unseen battles, illuminating the shadows. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. But if you feel it deep within, you'll know this is meant for you. No masks, no pretense, just truth. The Obsidian Inner Order is here, a place where kindred spirits gather to share wisdom, to connect, to transform. Over 450 strong, united not by conformity, but by purpose. If you're ready, you know where to find us. The link is in the description. If not, that's perfectly fine, because we're always here, watching over, making a difference in ways unseen. Here's to those who walk their own path, not for recognition, but because it's who they are. Here's to you. Thank you. They always return, a message, a call, a sudden appearance in a place they know you frequent. At first, they act casual, like no time has passed, like things were never broken, like they never left you drowning while they thrived. They bring up the past, the good old days, the memories they think will soften you, weaken your resolve, make you forget why you walked away in the first place. But there's one thing they don't understand. The version of you they remember no longer exists. You don't fit inside their nostalgia anymore. You are not the same person who once longed for their validation, who once sacrificed your peace to keep them close, who once allowed history to be a reason to hold on. You see it in their eyes the moment they realize something is different. They speak to you the way they used to, expecting you to fall into old patterns, but the words don't land the same way anymore. Their inside jokes feel forced. Their charm feels hollow. They are searching for the old you, the one who would have dropped everything for them, the one who would have forgiven without requiring change, the one who would have bent just to keep the connection alive. But that person is gone, and the silence that follows, it is deafening, because they came back expecting familiarity, but all they found was a stranger wearing your face. You see, they weren't ready for this version of you, the one who doesn't need closure, the one who doesn't feel the urge to prove how much you've grown, the one who doesn't need to rehash old wounds because you have healed past them. They thought time would have softened you, that absence would have made you sentimental. But what they failed to realize is, you haven't been waiting, you've been building, evolving, rising. And while they remained frozen in time, convinced that the past would always tether you together, you were busy becoming someone they no longer recognize. They fumble now, trying to find a way back in. They remind you of how much fun you used to have, how much you meant to them, how things don't have to be awkward, but your presence alone makes them uncomfortable. Not because you are unkind, not because you hold resentment, but because they feel it. They do not belong in your reality anymore. Not because you pushed them away, but because they never grew into the kind of person who could walk beside you now. And that truth, that undeniable gap between who you were and who you've become, it is something they can never cross. So let them stand in the doorway of your past, longing for a version of you they can never reach. But don't look back. The past is dead, and you have no interest in resurrecting it. You used to run toward people who barely acknowledged you. Run toward opportunities that required you to beg. Run toward places that drained you more than they fulfilled you. You were always the one reaching for love, for respect, for success, for recognition. But something shifted. You stopped running, stopped proving, stopped forcing things that were never meant for you. And in that stillness, something miraculous happened. Everything that was meant for you started coming to you. Your absence has become more powerful than your presence ever was. Because when you were chasing, they took you for granted. They ignored your effort, downplayed your worth, treated you like an option. Now they notice. Not because you're loud, not because you're demanding, but because you aren't there anymore. And that absence? It speaks louder than words ever could. They wonder what changed. They whisper about how things seem to be falling into place for you. They watch you from the shadows, trying to understand why doors that were once closed are now flying open in your favor. They struggle while you rise, not because you are lucky, not because you had a head start, but because you no longer waste your energy chasing things beneath you. They see you, thriving without their validation, without their connections, without their approval, and it terrifies them. Because deep down they thought you needed them. They believed you were powerless without their acceptance. But now they see the truth. You never needed to chase. You just needed to align. And alignment, it has no competition. The right people, the right opportunities, the right circumstances, they find you now. Not because you begged for them, but because your energy commands them. And those who once ignored you, they scramble. They try to re-enter your life, pretending they've always supported you. They try to remind you of who you used to be, hoping you'll shrink back down to fit their version of you. But you've outgrown the need to prove anything. You don't chase, you don't explain, you attract. And that is something they will never understand. They see you and feel the weight of their own wasted potential. You were once the same, standing beside them, facing the same struggles, dealing with the same limitations. But when the moment came to evolve, you moved. They didn't. They made excuses, chose comfort, chose stagnation, convinced themselves that growth was too hard, too risky, too uncertain. Every time they see you, they are reminded of what they could have been. They don't hate you, they hate the proof that they had a choice. Your existence forces them to confront the truth, that nothing was stopping them except themselves. They could have grown with you. They could have elevated, expanded, broken free, but they didn't. So now they sit in silent resentment, watching you, whispering about you, hoping you fail, just so they can feel justified in staying small. But your journey has nothing to do with them. You are not responsible for their refusal to change. You chose yourself, and that is a choice they will never forgive. Look around. Everything in your life now is intentional. Every decision, every boundary, every step forward, it was all built with purpose. You no longer live for survival, you live for freedom. No toxic ties, no financial chains, no unnecessary noise. They try to disrupt you, to find a crack in your foundation, but there is none. They realize too late that you have outgrown every weapon they once used against you. Your peace is not an accident. Your stability is not luck. This is what happens when you take control, when you remove distractions, cut off dead weight, and refuse to live at the mercy of anyone else's expectations. They want to shake you, but they can't even reach you. They talk as if you don't exist, yet they track your every move. They call you arrogant, yet they study your confidence. They claim they don't care, yet they ask about you in hushed conversations. They wait for proof that you've failed, hoping for any sign that you've slipped back into the version of yourself they once controlled. But every time they look for weakness, they find strength. Every time they search for struggle, they see growth. and it eats them alive. They resent the admiration they feel when they see you standing tall. They hate that no matter how much they try to tear you down, their own lives feel small in comparison. Their whispers hold no weight. Because while they talk, you move. And they will never stop watching. You never sought revenge. You never had to. The people who wronged you, they are unraveling. Not because you fought back, not because you exposed them, but because the weight of their own actions is crushing them. They thought they could break you, but instead they shattered themselves. Every lie they told, every trap they set, every move they made against you, it's all coming back to haunt them. You're untouched, elevated, unbothered. They watch you from a distance, hoping you'll strike back, hoping you'll acknowledge their suffering, but you've moved on. And that's what destroys them the most. Because their downfall isn't because of you. It's because of what they did to you. And now they are forced to live with it. You were never meant to be ordinary. Every attempt to weaken you only refined you. Every betrayal, every rejection, every silent battle forged something unshakable inside you. This power is not borrowed, not temporary, not conditional. It is yours. They thought you were just surviving, crawling through the wreckage of what they did to you. But you were never in ruins. You were rising, and now you stand undefeated. They will keep watching, keep waiting, hoping for proof that you are still the person they once knew, the one they could control, the one who would break under pressure. But they will die waiting, because you were never meant to be stopped. This is not luck. This is not fate bending in your favor. This is who you have always been. Let them whisper. Let them doubt. Let them struggle with the weight of their own insignificance. You have nothing left to prove. They wanted your downfall. Instead, they got front row seats to your ascension. How have you seen this shift in your own life? Drop your experience below. Let them know that their worst fear has already come true. You are untouchable.